The new album, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, it's incredibly diverse. Is that purposely done?
Not having been in the studio since The Head on the Door, and with me insisting that the others wrote some music, I got cassettes from the others for the first time. When we went in to record it, there were songs like from the others which musically I would never have written. I just don't write like that. I mean, they're obvious to my head. There's pointless saying which songs aren't and which are, because they're all gradually worked on by the group and they all become as the group wants them to be. But we never intended to make a double album when we started. We didn't sort of think we'd make a double album, but the more we kept recording, and we were recording like 2 or 3 songs a day, and they were all good. And I was thinking, we got to the point where we'd recorded 25 songs, and I sort of like said, we better stop, because we've got to sort of like, I've got to sing on them, we've got to mix them, and we've got to make it into something coherent. And I mean, even now, the 18 songs that are on the album aren't the 18 songs that, if you ask the others what 18 songs they put out of the 25, they all disagree with me. It's my final choice. It's the only bit of non-democracy that took place about it. So I mean, that's the reason why it's so diverse, is because there was like input from all five of us, which there never has been before, not so to that degree.
This was like more of a group record.
Yeah, like The Head on the Door, I wrote the initial sort of music, like the skeleton of each song, and then the group interpreted it a bit like an orchestra. Whereas with this one, it actually started off, from a point where I thought, good grief, like Paul writes the most weird sort of pieces of music, and it's only the most accepted ones I can even bear to listen to. He writes in really weird times. It has no concept of key or anything. It's but sometimes he'll have a really good melody, and I was thinking, well, it seems pointless, to disregard that when he can write really good songs. They're not like Cure songs, but once I take that and I sort of like change it a little bit, it fits into. I mean, now the umbrella under which like a Cure song fits is so enormous that we could probably for this time do a country and western song, and I don't think people would be that surprised. I hope we never do. Paul loves it, you see. He actually wrote a country western song and pleaded for it to be included on the album, but I haven't gone that insane yet. A lot of it sounds new, and a lot of it is. It's like we've gone into areas that we've never worked in before, but at the same time, it's taken a lot of elements that we've used over the years. It's just the actual flavour of some of the songs, like particularly some of the slower songs, like 1,000 Hours, would be a song that I would really have loved to have written around the time of Faith, and it would, it's because it encompasses like an enormous slice of what I was feeling like at that time and how I still feel. But I think it's much more accomplished now, and with a song like Shiver and Shake, that's what Give Me It always wanted to be. It's just like a really vicious, really angry song, and there's all bits of what we've done but made that much better because it's the whole group's actually started, and it's like there's input from different personalities rather than always just me. I mean, this is a very personal point of view. I don't suppose that other people will see it in quite the same way, because they'll only be aware of it, they'll only hear it for the first time as The Cure, whereas I'm hearing everything we do from the point when it doesn't even exist. I see it right from the point when someone will give me a cassette and say, what about this? So I'm obviously looking at this record in a very different way, and for the first time I'm seeing the group work as a group. I mean, for the first time ever, isn't it? Musically it's never happened like this before. So I'm glad that, everyone that hears it thinks it's the best thing we've done, but it's making the others horribly arrogant though. See, if we'd have written the songs all along, they keep saying to me.
The Kiss, the first track, is a really, really brutal opening song. But what kind of feel were you going for there? Just an all-out bludgeoning attack?
That was, I worked myself up into the frame mind to do the guitar part just in one go, so that it would sound like an actual piece rather than bother about drop-ins and structure and stuff. And it's just played through until it naturally ends. It's I just thought it would be good to start an album with this. It's got such pretty songs on it, and it's generally so nice to listen to and quite easy to listen to. I thought it'd be good, that you have to get through. You have to sort of like get through 6.5 minutes of bitterness before you actually start to enjoy it. It's made to appear as diverse as it can by the actual way the songs run into each other. They're all a completely different song. There's a completely different song. But I thought that the other extreme we could have done would be to put a song like Why Can't I Be You or Catch or Hot Hot Hot, one of the easier songs, right at the head of the album, and people would think, oh, this is going to be jolly, and would get the wrong idea. I mean, whatever we put at the head of the album, you're going to get the wrong idea of what the record's like, really. But I mean, I think so. I said, well, if I've never ever listened to the first track on the record without listening to the rest of it, even if I hate it. Generally, I think that people should be at least prepared to listen to the first side as a whole.
Right, Catch is like quite a whimsical song. Is that going to be another single?
That'll be the next single, yeah. I'm not loath to put out a second single from this record, because there's so much disagreement about even what's on the album that, I mean, there's at least 5 different singles, I think. There's probably agreement on Why Can't I Be You. There's a majority agreement within the group that should be the single. But certainly after that, we are going to do Catch, because I think it'll be a nice change, and it'll be like we can do a nice film with it, with Pep, and it'll be like a summer record.
So is Pep the nickname you've got for Tim Pope?
Yeah.
Okay, now Tim Pope been involved in directing all of your videos for the last 4 years or so. In the current video for Why Can't I Be You, he managed to get you dancing. Now, how did he manage that?
Well, the thing about the videos is that he always asks me what I think the video should be. He always says, "Go on then, tell me what you think." 9 times out of 10, what I think the video should be, he's already thought the video should be. Within rough, broad parameters, we think the same, which is why he does our videos. He has the same sort of visual sense as I do of the group. And with Why Can't I Be You, the whole group felt that we should do some choreographed dancing, as it would be the last thing that people would expect from The Cure. I can see why now, having made it. It's not exactly 5-star, but the woman who was trying to teach us gave up. She was like despairing.
I think it's quite funny
how inept we were.
You look at you in the video, and you're so obviously taking the dancing so seriously.
You had to. I mean, we were guys desperately concentrating all the time. Like 1 2 1 2 3. Like 2 3 2 2 3. It's like awful. It really was. I mean, I can see now why we don't. We've never made a choreographed video before. We'll never make another one either. But it looks funny, which is what it's designed to do.
Why Can't I Be Used in the charts at the moment? Is chart success that important to you now?
No, it's. I mean, no more than it ever has been. It's sort of relatively important in different places because it means more or less to us in different places. It's always been immaterial, but it would be frustrating. I mean, it's difficult for me to say it doesn't mean anything because everything we've done has always been slightly more popular than anything we've done before. So it's easy for me to be very dismissive about it. But I think that I would be very frustrated if we had less success than we have. If the records were completely ignored by the media, I would be a bit distraught, I think, because it would mean that people weren't being exposed to what we were doing. I mean, I enjoy The Cure getting played on the radio because it means that people have to listen to it if they've got the radio on, and it's the only way to. I mean, it doesn't matter if people like it or don't. I mean, I dislike 99% of things that I'm exposed to, so I don't see why if people dislike The Cure, they should get away from us. But it's not important in the sense of like status or anything. I mean, in one way, we would never have had this longevity if we'd had chart success a few years ago, because people would have been too easily labelled and people would know exactly what we're like. I mean, now we're able to sort of deal with it. We're much more slippery now. We can sort of escape tags and things because I'm so used to playing the extremely foolish games that you have to indulge in. So doing television shows and the whole thing now, we're much more adept at putting ourselves across exactly how we want to. We've never been overawed because we've never been desperate for that sort of attention, because we've concentrated as much on playing live as we have doing anything else. I mean, I can't, on the one hand, honestly and sincerely say I worry about chart success when the last time I bought a record was, probably over a year ago.
So, if that's not important to you, then have you got any yardstick by which you measure success? Whether you determine, that was successful or that wasn't?
It's difficult. I never really think of what we do in terms of success. I've always only measured what we do by what I would think of it if I stood outside of it and looked at it, and I always think that's every facet of what we do, what we look like, how I conduct myself, how I'm perceived generally, and what the group does, what we sound like. The whole thing, I always sit there and I look at it in a very sort of broad way, and I think if I was outside this, would I want to be in The Cure? Would I think The Cure was a good group? Do I think that we're doing good stuff? It's just that I compare us to people that I like, to our contemporaries that I admire, and I think, are we as good as that? I never sort of think, oh, grief, we're not in the top 10, because I look at the top 10 and I think, well, I'd seriously rather hang myself than be there, you know, if I had to be like the people who are in the top 10. So it's a different way of gauging what we do. I mean, I'm aware of us being successful, and I mean, it would have to please you. I would be lying sort of shamefacedly if I said it didn't, because it's obviously going to, because it means that we're being heard. You know, we're doing something that's being heard by more people. But I'd still feel that I'd rather Picure did something and it was liked for reasons that I like it. I would rather have a smaller audience that we meant more to than a big audience that we meant nothing to. It's that's just sort of part of my nature, which is why we've always been sort of slightly outside of the mainstream. I think we always will be, even if we sold 10 million records. I don't think we'd ever be accepted as a mainstream group.
Right. In Torture, you know, what actually happens to the person there? Because that's you know, he goes from something light like Catch, then boom, we're at it again in Torture.
Yeah, that's just sort of like a bondage song a bit, I think, really.
It sounds like you're into like an S&M tale.
Yeah, it is a bit. Better not go into that too deeply. That reflects just another bizarre facet of the group. One which will be, you know, brought to light probably as this year drags on. I mean, I've written all the words to the record, but on a few of the songs, I've taken phrases or sentences. I've asked the others for bits of words so that I can get, because I mean, I realise that the record does reflect a group much more now. I mean, in the past I've often said that and really felt that a lot of it is just me, because I've been writing the music and writing the words and doing the interviews, and it's the group lineup sort of just changed from time to time, and there's never been that sort of stability where I can honestly say, oh, this is a group. But with this record, I mean, it is as much the others as it is me. You know, I mean, so I couldn't expect to have an entire album of words which they disagreed with or which they weren't happy with. I mean, I could have, I suppose. It would have been a bit pointless. They wouldn't have felt as happy with it. So some of the songs reflect what the others think as well. But I mean, I've actually written them because I suppose I'm more adept at writing than they are.
Do you find it easy to write then?
I did for this record, yeah. I don't normally, and never in the past. Beyond a certain point, I always reach a sort of, I get stuck. But this time, I didn't at all. In fact, I wrote more songs than we had recorded. I wrote 27 songs. I wrote for 2 songs that we never got round to recording. I mean, I don't know why. It just all sort of came tumbling out. It's quite odd. I think, again, because I haven't written a song since In Between Those and Close to Me. I mean, it's a long time. It's like 2 years since we recorded that. It's a lot of things have happened to me, and a lot of sort of been stored up inside me. And I've also been writing in that time as well. It's not as like I just sat down and wrote the entire album in a day. Well, I mean, I tend to write all. I've just got into the habit of writing all the time. You know, I mean, most of it's awful, but I mean, even if I come up with 1 page out of 100 that I like, you know, it makes it worthwhile.
The track, If Only Tonight We Could Sleep, it sounds as if you're an insomniac. Are you a nocturnal creature?
Yeah, I am. I'm more and more. I seem to be. I'd never go to bed before 5 anymore. I just can't sleep before 5. I've always preferred the night time since I was about sort of 15 years old, just because it's much quieter, you know, and there's less going on. It's just easier to sort of sit and do things. And particularly as I don't really like sunlight very much, and I burn, so I don't know. I do prefer the night though, but not in a sort of like a, you know, it's much more mysterious or anything. It's really just because it's quieter. I prefer it.
There haven't been too many sitar sounds on a Cure record before, have there?
No.
Whose idea was it to put them on?
Again, it's just an underused sound. It's only because we've got this keyboard that's had a really good sitar sound in it that we decided to use it. And I've been listening to a lot of Ravi Shankar as well recently. Someone said, oh, it's very 60, you know, very 1967, but it isn't. It's very sort of like 14th century India, I feel, more than 1967.
You weren't tempted to get a real sitar player in there?
I've got a sitar, but I can't play it very well, and we didn't really want to get anyone in from the outside to play it on anything. We did have, there's 2 bits of sax on it, but that was just by chance. You know, that was just because I was drunk in a barn. This bloke happened to be playing. I invited him back to the studio to play on the record, and I didn't remember very much about it the next day, but it sounds really good.
What tracks was that?
Hey You and Icing Sugar.
Right.
It's just when we were in Nassau, this bloke was just wailing away, and it just seemed like a good idea at the time. I mean, it was a good idea. I shouldn't say that.
So what's the story behind how beautiful you are? Because there's like the weary man with greyish eyes and all that.
That's the literary one on the record. It's from a Baudelaire short story. Someone gave me a book of Arthur Rimbaud, Baudelaire and Verlaine short stories and poems, and I read through them all, and that one just really struck me, because I'd actually written a song like that around the time we were doing Faith, about how you think that you really know someone and you really love someone, then you suddenly discover that they can react to something you find very important. They react in a totally different way, and you can't believe that it's the same person. And I had a set of words that had that sort of idea, and when I read this story I thought, I mean, it's the same as anything, nothing's new, it's all like different ways of, I always feel of reflecting the very basic sort of emotions. I don't think I've ever discovered anything that someone hasn't discovered before, but everything's rediscovery anyway. So it was just like putting that idea, once I read it I thought it's a good idea actually having it so that you take it down to one incident. I tried doing it into like a very general sense of not understanding someone, but then I thought to actually take one particular incident and write a song, that was about the most difficult song to write, because I wanted to get it just right so that it sounded like a song rather than just like a literary exercise. But I think it's turned out really, really good, that one. I'm pleased with it.
I mean, is writing for you like real self-discipline? I mean, do you have to work at it?
No, I write, and I write really fast, and I just if I can't think of what I want to put in something, but I know the idea, I'd write in the side, in the margin, what idea I want, but I'd never sort of like bother stopping the flow to worry about rhyming or something. Then I'll read it back and I'll drop in words, and I do it. I mean, a lot of it's very haphazard. I mean, that sounds like I do it in a very cultured, very skillful manner. I don't at all. It's quite often I'll go out and start singing with a gap in a song, and I'll just sing, like I'll either repeat a couple of lines or I'll think, this is it, and I'll stop the tape and I just fill it in. There's all different ways. Other times I just have just a page of lines, and I just pick them at random, which are my first pass through on singing a vocal, and I just see what sounds best, and then I build the song up from that. I think that sounds like a good chorus or something. Depending again what I want to convey in the song. If it's a specific, then I'd spend much more time deliberating over the correct choice of words. If it's more like a mood, you can get away with a lot more. I mean, on this record, some of the writing is some of the best writing that I've ever done, because it does actually convey very specific things. Whereas in the past, if I've been a bit lazy, I've thought, I've also in the past written quite obscure songs, which I've never really bothered about people understanding. Whereas in this one, I've been a bit more careful about, I suppose, what I'm conveying, and I realised that there's not that much ambiguity in a lot of the songs that we've done this time. No, they're very obvious what they're about.
I like Snake Pit, for instance. I mean, is there a particular location? Yeah,
that was a particular incident that happened. That happened quite a while ago, and that stuck in my mind. With a lot of those songs that and like Hot, I sit there and I'll think, not when we're doing the album, but at any time, and just when you have a reverie, and I might think of something that I haven't thought about in years, and I just make a note of the actual incident, so that then when I'm coming to write, and I'll like think to myself, what did I feel then? Because it's like some things that I experienced when I was younger, and that I'm probably not as aware of now. I'm not exposed to as much. We were so, we were far less cosseted than we are now. I'm really aware of it. So in a lot of cases, I'm drawing on experience that happened before the Cure started to become this successful, because it's a very false environment that I spend a lot of my time in now, and I don't really want to write songs about being in hotel rooms or going on planes. It's very tedious. So, like last year, I purposely took a couple of months away, and that's why we didn't do much live work. People say, why don't you play in our country, why don't you do this? But if I didn't experience things outside of the group, there'd be absolutely nothing for us to do that would be new for me. There'd be nothing fresh, and I'd get very tired of it very quickly. Given the choice between real life and this, I'd rather take real life.
So
I'd
where
rather
did you
have
go?
both. Just around England, you know. I just went off and saw the Lake District again. And just went to Wales. Just to have time just to sit and just be normal, really.
So what is the incident or the location behind Snake Pit?
That was just happened. That happened on someone's birthday a few years ago, and it was in a sort of a horrible disco. It's literal. It's just I was just taken somewhere in a car full of girls, and it was really it was a dreadful experience. I shouldn't say too much about it, really.
Your voice seems to be quite strong on the album. I mean, did you practice a lot for that, or had you just done some touring before you actually did the vocals on the album, or what?
No, I hadn't done any singing. We finished the film in Orange in August, I think, just at the end of August, and we went straight to do the album. But no, I think it's much more mental, my singing. The approach is more of a mental approach, so, rather than a physical thing. I mean, I think I always could have sung like this, but in the past it hasn't suited me to. Like through 17 Seconds of Faith and Pornography, I mean, the songs were sung as I sang them. They were very, very plain. They were very simple, and I didn't ever need I never felt the need to affect my voice in any way. Since the top, I've experimented more with how I can sound, and on this one I've gone quite peculiar on something like Hot Hot Hot. You know, it's almost like gospel.
Yeah, it's almost as if you're consciously
I
trying.
I am doing it, but I never practice it. I go out and I just do it, and then I come back in, and if the general consensus, if the looks on people's faces in the control room is like beaming and happy, I think, well, I better listen to it back. If they're all very sullen, then I think, maybe this isn't going to work. But Hot 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 was the most revolutionary departure, really, from anything that I've sung before.
Well, Hot 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 is the first really funky number for The Cure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pure chic.
Had you been listening to a lot of black music before, that one? You decided to do that one?
No, I mean, a lot of these songs were, a lot of what we do, it involves things like Hot Hot Hot, and we'll, if we're doing a sound check or if we're in the studio or wherever we are, particularly now Boris is playing the drums, and he's like, he can play any kind of rhythm, any kind of beat, he can play like salsa or just anything. So he'll sort of start playing something and everyone sort of just joins in. And Hot 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 was one of those things. It was just like a bass line that I'd had, and I was thinking, this is a really sort of typical sort of funk bass, and I was just playing it to Simon, and Boris just joined in on the drums, and I thought this would be really funny if we turned this into a song. And it's so Paul came out and just started playing sort of chicken picking guitar, and within half an hour we had the song. So it's really spontaneous. It's just the sort of things. I mean, in the past because I would have had a much more precise idea of what the record was supposed to be like. There was never any room to do things like that. I mean, which is good. The records have always had a reason behind them, and this one was really to capture what the group's like. And so things like that, if it sounded good and it worked, it was going to go on the record because there was no reason for it not to go on. I mean, obviously we didn't sit down and think, we should do a funk song because if we thought like that, we would never actually do anything. The only thing that's like that is country and western. Paul would always come and say, "I've got this great country and western lick," knowing that I'm going to get extremely upset.
So what's the song actually about? Were you going more for the feel there, or is it actually trying to say something? Because all this business about lightning striking.
Yeah, lightning striking is just a veiled term for a revelation. Again, I shouldn't say too much about it. You sort of read into it what you want, really. It just seemed like an exciting phrase rather than saying the first time I realised that. I thought that first, it is a phrase, isn't it? To be struck by lightning when you suddenly realise something.